we're dealing with something called the difference quotient. And the difference quotient has a formula, and we'll kind of explain what in the heck the difference quotient is. What you're looking at essentially is, if I look at f of x plus h minus f of x all divided by h. Well, f of x plus h is the y value at x plus some number. So it's a y value, and I'm going to call him y2. F of x is the y value at some value x. So if I'm adding a number to x, it's bigger than x, right? And I'm going to call him y1. So the question is, then what is h? Well, h is the difference between the x values. The first x value minus the second x value. So notice the two x's reduce out and you're left with h.
Can you scoot it over?
Oh yeah, thank you. You're left with h. So if I call x plus h x2, and if I call x x1, what is f of x plus h minus f of x all divided by h? Well, f of x plus h is just y1 or y2. F of x is just y1. H is just x2 minus x1. So what's the difference quotient? So what's the difference quotient? What's that the formula for?
Quadratic.
The slope intercept.
Close?
Just the.
Just let's rise over run. Slope of the line. So the difference quotient is the functional form of the slope of the line. So if I come back and take a look at f of x plus h minus f of x, that's the difference of two y values in function form. So this is just the slope of the line. So what we're going to do is we're going to find a generalized slope of the line between any 2 points on a graph. And it's going to be in function form. In other words, you give me 2 x values, I'll give you the slope of the line between those 2 values. So here we go. I call this the 4-step process. And the first thing you want to calculate is f of x plus h. Well, that says wherever there is an x, I remove the x, and in its place, I put x plus h. So now I need to simplify. X plus h squared is just x plus h, x plus h, plus x plus h. X plus h times x plus h is 2 times x squared plus 2xh plus h squared plus x plus h. Remove parentheses, I have 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared plus x plus h. And I can't combine anybody. That's all she wrote. F of x is just the original. And then it says, now take and subtract 1 and 2. Take what you got in 1 and subtract what you got in 2. So we're the same issues that you have in college algebra you have in calculus, is that you've got to be very careful and you've got to write it correctly and work slowly to make sure you don't make an error. So when I write this down, this is 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared plus x plus h. Then I'm going to subtract f of x, which is more than one term, so that needs to be in parentheses. Because what's going to happen here? You remove parentheses, the signs will change. If I've done this correctly, I will only have terms that have h's in them. Anything that doesn't have an h will drop out. So 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared plus x plus h minus 2x squared minus x, and notice x squared minus x squared plus x minus x. What's left is 4xh plus 2h squared plus h. And every single term has an h in it. This is the algebra part of a calculus problem. This is the algebra part of the calculus problem. And in fact, you're going to find what we're going to be doing in Chapter 2 is we're going to do all of this, then we're going to apply calculus to it. So calculus is the end rather than the beginning. Most of the time for us it's the beginning, and then algebra is the end. This time it's going to be all algebra followed by calculus. So now that says take what you got in step 3 and divide that by h. So that's 4xh plus 2h squared plus h divided by h. Now if I've done this correctly at this point right here, the h in this denominator needs to go away. Now you're going to say, well, why? Because in Chapter 2, I'm going to set h equal to 0. And if I were to set h equal to 0 here, what would happen? What would I be dividing by? 0. Can I divide by 0? No. And in Chapter 2, it's all going to be about setting h equal to 0. So I need to have h go away. And you're going to see it does. I can factor out a common factor of h. Now your h's will reduce out. And now this is 4x plus 2h plus 1. Now this is a formula. For the slope of the line between any 2 points on our original problem that says you give me 2 x values, Because remember what h is. H is the difference of the two x values. Okay, I have an initial x value, I have an h, and I can tell you the slope of the line between those 2 points.